Alrighty, hello, good afternoon everyone, welcome back to Puget Sound Stormwatch Live here on YouTube. Already have 7 of us in the room right now. Thank you to whoever liked the stream right off the bat. We're going to jump into things really quickly here, so now that we have an audience here watching. It's a current offshore low, a very broad area of low pressure here, 978 millibars. Almost due west of Cape Disappointment right now. It's not too strong of a low enough to really cause damaging wind concerns around the area. However, this will cause a pressure gradient through the Cascade Gaps, and they'll have to find the area of least resistance in order to balance out said pressure gradient, and therefore the winds will flow down the most likely looking like the western portion of the river valleys here. Not seeing much of this wind go out towards the east. Lisa Silver, hello, welcome. Thank you for tuning in tonight. So yeah, already seeing some of these east winds pop up quite a bit around here. Notice how I go to the wind map down here and a lot of areas are already in the 35 to 40, some even higher area range as well. We have 42 miles per hour here near Kangley, 39 miles per hour in North Bend city limits, 35 with a max of 41 already here at Tanner, North Bend. The river crossing right there, here in the River Bend area. We're also gusting down to 50 here just southeast of Greenwater as well. And, just updated, we just got a max gust of the day already at 46 miles per hour here southeast Enumclaw near the golf course. So that is a new record high for today for that station. Ken Moffitt says, it sure is dark early. Yes, it is. Welcome to the big dark, everyone. Already 15 of you guys and 4 likes. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys, thank you. Gusting pretty high here in the national park boundaries as well, but that is common. We're at 35 here in Cosmos area. Not seeing too much along the coast. This is mainly confined to the foothills. Could reach some areas of the Puget Sound, but we're only anticipating it to make it about as far west as the Issaquah, Monroe area this afternoon and morning coming up. Ashley says, no, make it go away. I'm not done with my hair appointment yet. Let's check down in the Eatonville area. Not seeing too much down here. There's not a lot of weather station coverage, so we're really relying on the ones on the outskirts of town down here. Mainly looking at some of these East Foothill stations from Enumclaw up to North Bend and Snoqualmie right now. So it may hold off just long enough for your hair appointment, if all goes well. Riley N., when will it start raining in Bremerton? Excellent question. Let's look at current radar imagery. Looks like the front edge of rain is just about to move into Tacoma right now, and it's moving up north towards Bremerton. Going pretty good with what the NAM model here shows. So it looks like the leading edge of precipitation will be on your doorstep around 7 p.m. At least according to what the NAM 3KM model here has to show. Let me see what the HER has to say. Yeah, the HER has a little bit of less of this rain making it up, but geez, look at what happens tomorrow morning. Just a deluge of rain ahead of this next atmospheric river along the Oregon coast. So it looks like sometime between 7 and 8 p.m. it should start raining in Bremerton. Think we will actually have a chance at getting something. I swear we never do. I have a hunch that anywhere that does get anything will likely be north of Eatonville. Mainly Enumclaw up through Monroe. And even then, I'm not too confident that Monroe will get some of these wins either. Just based on previous analogs with similar setups like this. I have a feeling that anywhere between Carnation and Buckley will be the best shot of seeing some of these strong easterly gap winds tonight. However, can't count out areas of Eatonville possibly getting in on this. The models do certainly show this being a possibility. this afternoon. What is HER? So it is the HRRR model here, the high resolution rapid refresh. It's one of the convection allowing or CAM models. All of these shown here, these are the short range high resolution models that a lot of us use for, as I said, short range weather forecasting. I feel like the NAM is overdoing this quite a bit because it has already over 60 mile per hour gusts just to the southeast of North Bend and Snoqualmie. I have a hunch that that will not verify. Geez, look at that. It's got it up to 63 at 10 p.m. on this NAM model, but I have a feeling that we'll probably not see much more than 50 miles per hour for areas downstream along I-90. You know, I'm a little bit hesitant on this forecast just because the recent east wind forecast that I did put out did not verify even close to what this was showing. This would be showing 40 mile per hour east winds making it up to Seattle at 12 a.m. But I have a feeling that it will probably not reach much farther than Issaquah tonight. I think this may be overdoing it quite a bit on this model. Not sure how I feel about that one. I can at least see 6-hour averages here on the European, and the European has trended up a little bit too, so maybe onto something here between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. These are 6-hour averages, so not on an hourly basis. Eatonville area is right about here or so. That's where the city limits are approximately. Has around 37 to 40 for your area tonight. So yeah, not too much right down there. It shows most of the wind activity downstream of Nisqually going down into parts of Thurston and Lewis counties. Not quite making it to the I-5 corridor. You know, a lot of these areas are not really susceptible to these east winds as most of eastern King and Snohomish counties. I'd say for sure the area of focus is going to be from about North Bend down to Enumclaw and points east along I-90. You know, that's going to be the area of greatest concern tonight. It's still gusting to 41 here in Enumclaw, just hit 46 not long ago. This station up here in Tanner River Bend along I-90 hit 41 earlier, but is currently gusting to 37. These models have the strongest winds somewhere east of Chestmorse Lake here, right before you go over the pass. So between the Riverbend area and Snoqualmie Pass, right in this little ridge down here. And then would most likely affect areas downstream of the Stampede and Snoqualmie gaps here. To see where the Green River goes. This is the Stampede Gap. It's where we most commonly get some of our east winds downstream. And this sometimes affects us all the way down here in Milton too. Like during the bomb cyclone, which we're not expected to get anywhere near that tonight. The bomb cyclone gave us 57 mile per hour wind gusts here in the Milton area. Pretty far west of where the mountain gap winds usually extend out to. And also coming up on the 11th anniversary of the East Wind event on Veterans Day, November 11th of 2014. Took our power out here in the Milton area for about 36 hours, and we had close to 60 mile per hour mountain wave gusts coming out of the east, affecting this area and points west as well. I heard a lot of these mountain wave winds reaching the SeaTac area. You know, mountain waves are similar to tsunami waves, but in the form of air. Are there any chances of severe weather like lightning or small hail or stuff? Excellent question that you bring up. So let me pull up the SPC outlook real quick because some of our areas will be in this outlook for tomorrow. However, the area of greatest attention is going to be along the Oregon coast and parts of the southwest interior, including Clark and parts of Cowlitz counties as well. So currently, most of western Washington is in this general risk of thunderstorms for tomorrow, meaning no severe thunderstorms expected north of the green line here. But we do have a 2% tornado and waterspout risk, as well as a 5% wind and hail risk for most of western Oregon, including the entire Willamette River Valley. parts of northern California, northwestern California, and a very small part of southwestern Washington. Mainly just Vancouver, Washington, up to the Lewis River here. So certainly a chance for some of that severe activity down farther south, but not really expected around the Seattle-Tacoma area. Could see some thunderstorms here along the I-5 corridor tomorrow, south of Olympia too. And let me see if I can bring that up real fast. You know, the NAM usually does better than the HRRR at sniffing out these thunderstorms. The HRRR model, the HRRR as some call it, usually overdoes this activity quite a bit. But I like what the NAM 3KM is showing here. So this has the leading edge of moisture coming in, bringing rain tonight into tomorrow morning, and then after that front comes through, then we start to see some of the areas of post-frontal convection come through. This could be the best chance to see some thunderstorms around the area. Even brings up a thunderstorm over central Kitsap around 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon too. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled on the radar around this time, because it definitely looks intriguing. You know, mostly southwest low-level flow off the Pacific Ocean. And then the next front comes in around 9 p.m. Thursday night. That will also kick up winds around the area too. But definitely looks pretty enticing here on the NAM 3KM model, the high-res one. During one of the more recent thunderstorm events, this had a thunderstorm over central Kitsap. It ended up being a little bit farther south of there, but definitely nailed the intensity of it. A lot of the northern Key Peninsula, all the way up to the Burley-Olalla area of Kitsap County, got a lot of this lightning not long ago. This was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. You guys were on the live stream with me if you remember that. So I do trust what the NAM is saying here. And look at some of these thunderstorms down here in the marginal risk area too. Definitely a good chance of seeing a spin up possible. At the very least, I expect to see a couple funnel clouds. See, look, we even have marginal tornadoes sounding down here. So nice low-level shear. It's pretty linear for the most part, but the magnitude of the shear is there. So strong low-level flow looking like out of the southwest, but not really too much of that low-level turning that you need, the shear, to really have an enhanced tornado threat down here. Certainly are some good kinematics showing up here on the soundings for that area. This would be at 20Z, which we're now -8 Zulu time, going back to Pacific Standard Time. So this would be around noon tomorrow down in Clark County, which I consider to be the tornado alley of Western Washington. How about Bonnie Lake? Looking pretty similar if you're talking about wind conditions tonight. You know, parts of Bonnie Lake may be on the far west end of this, so you may not get as strong winds. It's mainly looking like Buckley East right now. There's always the chance that this could overperform and spread farther west like sometimes it does. Like during the bomb cyclone, although the wind gusts would not get nearly up to that magnitude, they could reach out as far west as some of the Puget Sound. Especially some of the farther east portions of the Puget Sound where it stretches, you know, closer to the I-5 corridor, like Redondo up to Des Moines, for example. Always a chance to get some breezes up there tonight, but model guidance is not quite showing that. It's showing most of the wind gusts making it up to about Tiger and Cougar Mountains. That's really about it. William G says, "Hey man, hope you're having a good evening from Enumclaw. Thank you very much." And stuff, can you clarify that for me, please, Riley? If you feel like it when you say and stuff. What are the winds going to be like for BC? Well, definitely too far out from the easterly winds. But you're going to notice that the winds start to shift more out of the south and then come back out of the west with its next front. And I feel like the NAM's going to be overdoing this quite a bit, so expect these numbers to go down just initially. We're not expecting any low-level cyclone to make landfall along the coast. This is going to be a frontal system. So extending from the area of low pressure, which usually yields less wind gusts for this area, but it does show some areas getting around 40 mile per hour wind gusts sometime Thursday afternoon ahead of that frontal passage. And this could also affect you up in the Nanaimo, BC area as well, and Vancouver. Parts of Vancouver Island could very well experience some of these southerly or southeasterly winds ahead of the frontal passage Thursday afternoon. Are they saying very windy for Thursday? Well, hopefully that answered your question. You know, Vancouver Island doesn't show up on this model here, so excuse me for that. But it does show Victoria up to Nanaimo and parts of Vancouver. You know, although I know Vancouver's not part of Vancouver Island, but still, just saying for any part of BC in general. It's looking like that frontal passage could kick up the winds from the southeast a bit up the Strait of Georgia. So some offshore flow off the Strait of Georgia until it turns back onshore when that front passes through. This is also going to bring the snow levels down for the passes once the back end of that cold front passes. So I think that's the overall reason. It's just because, see, he's showing some ridiculous wind gusts here along the coast. I think this is going to heavily overdo the wind gusts, just based on recent performance with this model in particular. You see if the 0Z HER is any more modest when it comes to that. So right now only goes out to 10 a.m. on Wednesday, so not seeing too much in that aspect. You notice how tomorrow a.m. as well, around 10 o'clock, it has wind gusts at 38 miles per hour for the Tacoma area. I believe these are also coming out of the east, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, no, never mind. It's coming out of the south at this time. So it has those easterly winds switching to southerly ahead of that frontal passage by around 10 a.m. tomorrow, according to this one model in particular. These are sustained winds here on this model also, just as a heads up. Just waiting for the frames to render. So you notice it keeps switching from back to south, back to east, and then back to south again. Could see several of these little minor east wind events as we go into the weekend. As a heads up for any of you guys in the foothills area. Definitely the area of greatest concern, the timing of greatest concern is going to be tonight through tomorrow morning, because it's even showing 20 knot or around 23 mile per hour sustained winds, not counting the wind gusts out of the east up there. My weather station, AccuWeather, is reporting a max gust of 27 miles per hour in the last hour. And you're in the Enumclaw area, okay. Enumclaw is back up to 46 down here in the southeast part of town. Of course, a lot of these numbers could be slightly skewed too, because it could attribute to user error. Usually you're supposed to mount your weather station, you know, like 100 feet up or so, or usually about 30 feet above any surface, so like a roof line, for example, and away from trees if at all possible. You know, the more exposed you are towards the east, then the better your weather station is going to pick up these east winds tonight. For example, when it shows 37 here, but only 9 miles per hour here, this could be user error setting up the station. You know, it doesn't always mean that the wind dies down that much over that short of a distance. It's usually how the weather stations are set up around the area. George says kind of windy up here in Oso from the east. Okay, weather stations on the roof. All right, that's good. Let's go look at the Oso area right now. So still Squamish River Valley. Not expecting, yeah, it's 14 miles per hour upstream here. It says it's Arlington, but it's near Oso. Be just outside of Oso here. But we're not expecting too much of the winds up here tonight. It's mainly from Monroe southward. And for those of you who want a reminder on why we could see this event happen, look at how close these isobars are together over the Cascade Gaps. It's about an 8 millibar gradient across half a county or so right here. You don't see too often, and these gradients set up on the east end of these offshore low pressure systems. Usually the gradient gets pretty tight out here, and it has to take the area of least resistance out of these mountains. So it goes down the mountain gaps. And in this case, the lower pressure is off to the west, so it's going to flow from east to west. If the lower pressure was off to the east, it would flow from west to east, because wind is always from higher pressure to lower pressure. We don't have the high pressure this time on the east side of the mountains to really exacerbate this effect. I just hear some people outside right now. Yeah, so this is what the European model shows for the area between 4 and 10 tonight. So he's showing some 55 plus out here. Luckily, this is open area. Not very many people living in this region. This is up by Chester Morse Lake and Howard Hansen Reservoir and whatnot. But Highway 18 goes along this area here. So some of Highway 18 all the way west out to Covington at Maple Valley, and some parts of Auburn could get into these 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts from the east tonight. Once again, this is between 4 and 10 p.m. And from 10 to 4 a.m. tomorrow, showing a small area possibly getting up to 60 miles per hour on the reliable European model, as I like to call it. This would be pretty close to the Enumclaw area, so have to watch out. Enumclaw area overnight. This is going to be before the sun rises tomorrow and after the sun sets tonight, which it already just did. But you know, it's showing pretty good chances of getting up towards 50 miles per hour, and so far this model's verifying pretty good, at least for the previous version of it here. See, it shows around 46 here, and what do you know? 46 right there, am I right? See, these are every 5-minute observations or so. Steady wind of 36, so sustained wind 36 miles per hour, gust 46 here at 5:16. It showed we already hit 46 at 3:40 p.m. as well, and 45 just 5 minutes before that. And then several 40 plus here and there as well. So yeah, I believe these areas are going to be prime time tonight. From Enumclaw up to Black Diamond, Maple Valley, through Issaquah up to Sammamish, and points eastward along I-90, and 410 as well. William says just gusted to 46 here in Enumclaw. Just about adds up. So far, European is nailing it, as it usually does. What do you think about the Euro model on the Seattle area, Whitney Davis? You're talking about upstream here because it was showing 34 miles per hour from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's possible it could reach up there, but I have a feeling the cutoff's going to be somewhere around I-405. So it could be breezy in the 20 to 25 mile per hour range, but I'm not expecting any more than 30 miles per hour for the SeaTac area overnight into tomorrow morning. These winds here are when the front comes through and the wind switch to out of the south. Same here as well. Yeah, if what the European is showing here is true, it could be pretty interesting off of Westport and Long Beach. Thursday at 4 p.m. It does show the wind gusts kicking up quite a bit here into the 30 to 40 mile per hour range across much of the Puget Sound as well. So we'll have to keep a close eye for model trends on that. Golden Girl 7 says, I'm in Ravensdale outside of Maple Valley. Yeah, you're in one of those areas that could get pretty gusty tonight. So just, batten down the hatches and make sure all of your Halloween decorations are put away if you have the ability to. If you haven't already. It's not too late outside, so it's only 5:30. It may look like it's midnight, but it's only 5:30. Welcome to the big dark, everyone, as some have already said. It's going to be a long 4 months for all of us, isn't it? Will the strongest winds overnight go to Vancouver, miss the island? No, it's looking like overnight the wind gusts are mainly going to stay south of the island. It could get up into the Tofino area, possibly. My scaling may be a little bit wrong here, so... Oh, wow. I'd like to give shout out to William Gatlin for the donation of 2 coffees tonight. And let me show you guys some shocking news here. You notice how high that number's gone? We've almost doubled the amount of coffees in the last week or so since the live stream. Here's the new leaderboard. Diana Stevens still at gold, Lady Blue at silver, Seattle Light 2021 is at bronze. I'd like to give a shout out to this nice person for gifting a whopping 10 coffees on my birthday 4 days ago. And Jen is here just outside in the runner-up position. So we donated a total of 126 coffees. And thank you guys for all of the generous birthday messages and support a few days back. I actually got so much in about 4 hours that PayPal put a temporary hold on my account until they can verify everything. So there's a good chance I probably won't get your tips right away. So yeah, huge shout out to everyone that donated coffees over the last week or so. Thank you guys so much for that. But it's looking like the strongest winds overnight will stay south of Vancouver Island. They'll definitely stay south of the Strait of Georgia. Let me zoom out to see if it starts to show Vancouver Island at the regional level. It should. Which it does here, see? The strongest winds are off the coast of central and northern Vancouver Island. And this is all going to be offshore flow as a heads up. So not your usual westerly surge down the strait. It's going to be an easterly surge down the strait. Since all of these winds are going to be coming out of the mountain gaps. And it doesn't have very much for the Strait of Georgia or the Vancouver, BC area. It mainly stays offshore or just south of you along the strait. Just because of that offshore flow component going on at that time. And then this is the evolution of things to come. This is the next frontal passage. The center of low pressure moves north of Vancouver Island. Some models originally wanted to show this moving into our area and bring a huge blow to us, but luckily it pulled way north over the last few days or so. But it is going to bring that elongated cold front feature through, which could kick up the winds quite a bit, especially off the coast. Not too much in the Puget Sound. We could see up to 40 mile per hour gusts max, but nothing of high concern at that time. See a little bit more of that east wind, but a little more confined to the mountain gaps, not making it too far out to the lowlands. This would be 4 a.m. on the 9th. If you guys are subscribers on Facebook or on Patreon, you would have known I've been posting about the November 9th time frame quite a bit. Looks like the models, at least the European right now, has backed off on that solution of bringing a storm directly into our area on the 9th. Because that was a thing for a little bit. Not looking like a thing anymore right now. But let me check on the GFS and see what it has to show for the area. See, same exact thing for the 6th and 7th. And yes, I just said that. Pulling the low pressure center up north into Vancouver Island, but still bringing a pretty nice cold front feature down into western Washington. Then this front would miss us off the coast. So yeah, not showing anything for the 9th either. So it looks like right now, at least, we are clear for November 9th. No storm at this moment. You notice how active we are going into the middle of November, too. GFS suggests we could get one of these weak little cyclones coming from northwest to southeast, rolling along Vancouver Island off the coast. But this is a good 13 days in the future, so take this with a grain of salt. And it spins up another one right behind it, kind of a little Fujiwara effect right there. Literally a day after, so take that with a grain of salt. It's not a matter of urgency at this time. Live close to East Coast and Ladysmith, they're saying gusts of 44. Windy and just started pouring in Grayland. Grayland's right around here. Probably can't see it very well here on the windy radar. Let me see if I can pull up radar scope real quick. There we go. Go to single plane mode and pull up the coastal radar. It verifies. Look at that cool little feature right there too. Yeah, see, you don't see that too often. Gusting to 25, but out of the east. So yeah, it looks like it is pouring down there in Grayland. No surprise there. And the leading edge of precip is still quite a bit south of Bremerton for the Bremerton person that was watching. Some of this light rain's just now starting to move into the Tacoma metro. Yeah, like Seattle Flight said, there was a catastrophic UPS flight crash in Louisville tonight. I mean, some of that footage is horrifying, to say the least. So, yes, all thoughts go out to them, for sure. It's a very, very unfortunate situation that happened in Louisville tonight. The East Coast and Ladysmith. Not 100% familiar with Canadian geography, so just bear with me on this. Okay, so Ladysmith is right about here. Let's go back to the European, since it has been the most reliable with the winds as of recent. So right around here is the area you're going to be looking at. Has 40 a little bit south of you down here in the Victoria, BC area. Maybe, yeah, it's going to be close. It might have just shy of 40 here in the morning time for your area. And a better chance of reaching 40 for the Ladysmith area later on in the day tomorrow between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. Before things really start to die down a bit. But then, look, the next frontal system is right on our doorstep, a day later. So this is going to bring those southerly winds, probably southeasterly in your area, but southerly for most of the Puget Sound ahead of this next cold front right here. So yeah, here's our gradient tonight, the gradient over the mountains. This is the one we're going to be watching for those east winds. The atmospheric river is impacting California down here. And we get the bottom end of this atmospheric river up here tomorrow into Thursday. And then the next cold front and weak atmospheric river associated with it moves along the west coast. And it's looking like we stay pretty modest into Monday right now. Doesn't show much rain after Thursday for our area. A little bit of scattered rain Friday morning. Then we start to dry out this weekend, and see it even showed the H for surface level ridge right there. High pressure, which usually leads to colder, drier conditions this time of year. At least that's what it shows on the 18Z European, which goes out to 6 days right now. South Hill, Puyallup going to get winds tonight. I believe you may be just a little bit too far west to get some of those winds tonight. It's died down for the moment, being over parts of Enumclaw. This station hit 46 miles per hour twice earlier. And the Buckley station near Rainier School is right around 40 miles per hour on the max. It's hit a 38 mile per hour max gust earlier. And down here at the Riverbend station near Rattlesnake Ridge, max gust of 41 miles per hour earlier. Shows this happening around 2:01 p.m. Steady wind of 15, gust 41. So really just watching this specific area here, mainly for the strongest wind gusts tonight. So looking like right now, South Hill's going to be a bit too far west and south. Because not only are these going to be coming from the east, but they're going to be coming a little bit out of the southeast too. So sort of like this. So if anything, some parts of Auburn could be on the outskirts of this, and possibly parts of SeaTac, depending on how strong these winds get tonight. But it should stay well to the north of the Tacoma area tonight. Thank you guys for 14 likes on the stream. Getting close to 150 views at this time. You know, doing pretty good so far on this stream. We're working our way up. Just hit 45 again down here in Enumclaw. Just when I thought it slowed down a little bit, back to 45. But we're inching our way closer to YouTube partner benefits here for the streams. You know, some of you guys talked about this in the last stream about how you wanted to possibly bring in some custom emojis and whatnot for the YouTube memberships. And the possibility of some extra videos and maybe even some membership-only live streams. But, you know, I don't want to withhold too much from the viewership, if you know what I mean. Which is why I even hesitated to bring up the possibility of enabling channel memberships when we become eligible. Which is in about, after tomorrow, should be a little bit under 1,200 watch hours. So pretty much that means 1,200 people would have to be watching for an hour, or 600 people for 2 hours, 400 for 3 hours, 300 for 4 hours, and so on. Or 200 for 6, 150 for 8. That was pretty much the case back on the Saturday windstorm about a week and a half ago, where I had over 150 people watching for almost the entire 8.5 hour stream. And we ended up getting about 1,200 to 1,300 watch hours just from that one stream, which really put us closer to that spot. But the feature I'm most looking forward to is definitely the super chats, the ability to buy the super chats. It's unfortunate that YouTube takes about 30% of the earnings, but it just makes things a lot easier, and you can post your comment at the very top of the chat for me to see as well. Can't wait to start the experimental phases of that. Hopefully soon, if we can get some momentum rolling again on this channel. Pretty cool the way you look at these areas and they're verifying what is happening. That is the art of the weather. You know, far from an exact science, but just something I've always wanted to do. So let's pull up the Tanner Crossing Riverbend station here. So this had that station hitting 41 You're at 201. I think I brought this up earlier, but yeah, we hit 41 miles per hour in the Tanner Riverbend area of North Bend at 2:01 p.m. We got up to 39 again at 4:31 and 38 about a half hour before, and 38 again just in the last 10 minutes or so. This one updates every 15 minutes. A few of them update every 5 minutes, but that one updates every 15. So we should start seeing some of these stations really kick up quickly here tonight. Some of the Enumclaw stations are already getting up there quite a bit. The ones on the north and western side, which may not always be accurate. Usually the one here in southeast Enumclaw has gotten the forecast pretty accurate for wind gusts, which probably attributed to a correct installation of the weather station on their roof. Not too sure about these areas, since these are the ones that are linked to the NWS. As we could always get some more stations by pulling up the weather under map, but not always the most accurate. So let me see if we can get a little preview at the weather under map for stations real quick. Yeah, see how there's much more station coverage, but not all of these are synced to the National Weather Service. I believe this is the one in particular that is gusting up to 46 at this time. Let's pull this station up and see what it has to say. Maybe not. Maybe not quite. Might be this one down here. Although it says from the west, so I'm not quite sure about that. I think this is the one down here. Just off of Suntop Boulevard near the golf course. Oh, that is yours. Okay. So, William, yours is the one that is registered with the NWS. Shows up on the site. Oh, it's actually saying that they hit a wind gust of 54.8 at the station at 3:39. Station 117 is at my home in Enumclaw. Okay. Yeah, just to protect your privacy, I'm not going to zoom in it too far on this. Okay, so yours is this one out here. All right, so the one that's on the NWS Western Region Hazard Site is this one, Station 122. So that would be yours right there. I believe this one is the Buckley one that shows up, Station 118. See, a lot more stations here, but a lot of these, I would have to guess, are not properly installed. You know, this is the Kangley station that shows up. And then here's our Tanner Crossing station. I believe this one right here. This one's gusting pretty good to the southeast here in Kangley. Yeah, once again, for anyone who might have missed it, parts of the area are under a general thunderstorm risk tomorrow. In the extreme southwestern part of Washington here, including Vancouver, is in the marginal risk for severe weather tomorrow. 2% tornado and waterspout risk, and a 5% wind and hail risk. So pretty slim threats, but the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma is picking up on the threat here. We did not have any confirmed waterspouts along the Oregon coast with the most recent marginal risk that went in. But I do believe we had a waterspout off of Tokeland, just outside of the Willapa Bay area. Nearly made landfall in Tokeland with our, I'd like to say it was the Saturday event. No, it was after that. Sometime in the last week, we had waterspout almost make landfall near Tokeland. So, yeah, just to show you that these aren't non-zero. 2%, yes, but 98% chance of it not happening. So, it's not a 100% chance of it not happening. Just as an added heads up. William says he needs to adjust it. It's reading about half of what it should be. Yeah, so the higher off you can get it from the roof line, the better. And if you guys have seen Michael Snyder's setup, I don't know if he showed it public, but he has two weather stations. One's an ultrasonic anemometer, and the other is the traditional 3-cup anemometer. But he has them about 30 feet off the top of his roof line on guy wires that hold them up. So that's some of the best, one of the best setups that you can have is, you know, as high off the roof line as possible and away from trees is highly recommended for a weather station. So yeah, this station here, North Enumclaw, hasn't recorded much. Station near downtown hasn't recorded much, but this station's been going off down here near the Enumclaw Golf Course. So yeah, still plenty of time for things to ramp up. We have not hit peak yet. These are just sort of the warm-up to what is expected. Let's see, 50 plus here in those susceptible areas, Crystal Mountain, Mount Rainier National Park. This station here got up past 80 miles per hour with one of our more recent weather events down there. But highly common down there, so luckily not a lot of population in the national park boundary. Once again, this is just a setup because of a pressure gradient set up over the Cascades from a broad area of low pressure off the coast. And I haven't even gotten into the alerts in effect for the area yet. So, yeah, let me go over these one more time here with you guys. Haven't even gone over the alerts in effect. So, this is the flood watch in effect for Mason County. This is for the Skokomish River near Potlatch, one of the most favorable rivers for flooding in western Washington. This is the most recent update. It remains in effect from Thursday afternoon through Saturday morning. Flooding caused by excessive rainfall continues is possible. Kind of a weird grammar slip up there from The Office. But yeah, this would be for the Skokomish River in Potlatch, Washington. And then, of course, we have the wind advisory in effect for the foothills from central Snohomish County down to Pierce County. 6 p.m., so it goes into effect. Yeah, it goes into effect at 6 p.m. for these areas, so in 10 minutes, and remains into effect until 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. East to southeast winds 20 to 30 mile per hour sustained, with gusts up to 45 miles per hour expected. Once again, from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. This includes Lee Hill, Enumclaw, Miramont, South Hill. Oh, so it does include South Hill. So, correction to what I said earlier. It's like on the extreme outskirts of South Hill, but it does technically count South Hill in that area. Elk Plain, Prairie Ridge, Monroe, Pine Lake, Sahalee, Covington, Sawyer, Eastgate, Duval, North Bend, and Maple Valley. Yeah, it's like that eastern part of South Hill. So this was after the NWS in Seattle did their restructuring of the zones. I feel like they should have probably split this into two, somewhere around here. But this goes all the way up to Granite Falls, as far west as Monroe, some areas of Snohomish, Lake Stevens. It also includes Cougar Mountain. Let's go just to the city limits of Issaquah, the Renton Highlands, Maple Valley, East Hill, all the way down to Lake Tapps, Bonnie Lake, the eastern parts of South Hill, and all the way down here to Elk Plain and the Mountain Highway area. And see, this follows down towards Greenwater as well. So the areas that I listed there are included in this wind advisory. So yeah, just a small correction to what I said earlier about South Hill not being in the wind advisory. By definition, it is, but the models are not showing the wind gusts reaching quite that far west. At least not the strongest ones that yield the wind advisory. And we crashed. Hang on, bear with me, trying to get it back. Nope, it's this beta site with the new pivotal weather layout just keeps crashing. I want to see if we can get it fixed this time. Nope. Wow, it's really gonna act up. So we're gonna try going back to the previous experience here. Bad news is the previous experience, even for some reason it signs me out on this, but it's only every other run on the European. So we're gonna have to go back to the beta to do this. I'm just gonna have to get it figured out, which it looks like it'll get figured out here. So yeah, South Hill's right about here. Really only has 25 to 30 mile per hour gusts for South Hill. Then, of course, the coastal flood warning as well. This was the update to the coastal flood watch I posted earlier. There's also a high surf advisory in effect for the same exact area as well. See, it's shown here. So coastal flood warning in effect from 7 a.m. tomorrow to 10 p.m. Thursday. And this will slightly overlap with the 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday high surf advisory as well. Correction. It looks like it completely overlaps for a majority of it. So, yeah, so from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Thursday, high surf advisory coincides with the coastal flood warning. Was just now reading that, so apologies for the slip up there. Moderate to major coastal flooding is expected. Inundation of 2 to 3 feet above ground level is possible. Large breaking waves of 20 to 25 feet. And this is a combination with the king tides, as well as that low atmospheric pressure, which I believe it was either Michael or Ben on their videos earlier. That makes things annoying for you. Not sure what that's to, but feel free to clarify that. Still kind of catching up on the chat. I normally have the chat in a different window, but I'm keeping it on this monitor here for now, just for ease of access. But I'm just reading through this text right now, so even saying storm surge. Just funny how it's using storm surge in a non-hurricane environment. You don't hear that too often. Oh, the crashing of the system, yeah. Yeah, the pivotal weather layout that I use still has a lot to work on for that new beta format. It says there's high confidence in the water levels reaching moderate to major flood inundations, coinciding with the midday high tides, particularly in Westport and La Push. So it looks like wave activity peaks on Thursday. And it says potentially resulting in as many or more impacts than the high tide on Wednesday. So if you plan on going out to the coast to see these tides and coastal flooding, take extreme precaution and know your exit routes off the top of your head. Like if something gets crazy, you got to be able to bolt out of there in a moment's notice. Because some of these surges could easily get up to Highway 101 in some parts of these areas. If you're talking about like the Queets area, maybe. Might be thinking of Highway 109 from Tohola southwards, though. Yeah, that might be a little bit too far inland for that. But Highway 109, certainly a possibility in some of these spots. The elevation of the highway is not too far, like not much higher than the immediate coast that it serves. So some of these ocean beaches could see some serious coastal flooding alongside the king tides through the middle of the week. Welcome everybody just joining in. Anthony here with Puget Sound Stormwatch. Going over some weather information about the east winds tonight, as well as the possibility for coastal flooding with the king tides. And we're also talking about some winds coming up with the next possible frontal system Wednesday into Thursday as well, which is tomorrow. The European shows the next front making landfall sometime between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Thursday. And we're just starting to get the 0Z NAM to render too. You know, I've kind of lost faith in the NAM when it comes to wind gusts. It's been severely overdoing it the last few events, so I'm taking it with a grain of salt right now. But it does show some of these southerly winds ahead of this front getting up towards 45 plus miles per hour for Tacoma at 4 p.m. on Thursday, but I feel like that's overdoing it. You know, with the last couple weather systems and the NAM's performance, my thoughts of the NAM have become kind of stale, at least when it comes to wind. There's still time to win it back. It did do pretty good down here in the Tacoma area, getting that 60 plus mile per hour wind gust along the Narrows, you know, about a week and a half ago. But since then, it's just been dogging it. I think the NAM could be overdoing it quite a bit here along the coast, getting near 70 miles per hour for Long Beach. It's gonna take a while for me to believe that. But mentioned on my Facebook page as well, possibility for some thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon around the southwest interior in particular. Some of these thunderstorms looking particularly robust down here as well, where that marginal risk is in effect. So wouldn't be surprised to see some rotating storms down here. I pulled up a sounding earlier and it showed a marginal tornado sounding for this exact storm right here. So wouldn't be surprised areas between Longview and Vancouver could get a couple of these little spin-ups in the valley down there in Clark County, perhaps. Then it shows the next front coming through the nighttime of Thursday. This one has it coming through around 9 p.m. I could expect the wind gusts kicking up quite a bit for a few hours ahead of the front. And some passing showers and possible thunderstorms. These do look like small hail makers, though, at the very least. Yeah, the last storm they called for a storm coming up, I did not get it. Would they issue wind warnings for Vancouver Island as it comes up? Well, I don't work for Environment Canada, so it's really going to be up to them to determine the best action, like the best course of action. But, you know, my thoughts on these high-res models are kind of stale at the moment. Been leaning more towards the European as time goes on, because the European's been doing a pretty good job at nailing these wind gusts around the area. This shows your area up here getting around 45 miles per hour before that front comes through on Thursday, around 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. I know it doesn't show Vancouver Island on this map, but Victoria's down here, which means your general vicinity, just southeast of Nanaimo, is right in this general area here. So around 40-mile-per-hour gusts can be expected. Not quite sure what the criteria is from Environment Canada for wind warnings out there. I know they have different criteria for a lot of things. Okay, just crossed 200 views, 18 likes. Thank you all so much for getting the word out there. Much appreciated. We're also really close to hitting 31K on Facebook here too. Need about 30 more people to follow on Facebook. It looks like the current number is 35 for 30,965 followers on Facebook. Just looking at some of my Facebook posts as well. A lot of shares, a lot of comments, and a lot of likes. Good to see the word is getting out there about possible coastal flooding and strong winds coming up for most of the area as the week goes on. So, yeah, Mark, my thought on the short-term weather models is not quite leaning towards what they have to say right now. So I think the short-run weather models are kind of overdoing the wind coverage up here. I'm starting to lean more towards the European because this last Saturday when we had that little sneaker storm pop up, which underperformed for a lot of people, it nailed the wind gusts for SeaTac. I think it was around 45 miles per hour or right around that region, which is almost exactly what the European showed. Yeah, the European didn't do so well for a lot of areas. A lot of the models busted, especially the short run ones. That could change this time around though. You know, models don't always do so well when those little sneakers form in the back end of the atmospheric rivers like that and just develop immediately off the coast. You know, as we saw, the models struggled big time with that. And I expected some backlash, and I did get a little backlash for that, but that is completely a given. You know, completely normal. No surprise to me. Yeah, you see that little pulse down here too with the European. Showing another window possible to get some pretty good east winds out of the Stampede Gap right here. Late Saturday night into Sunday morning. This upcoming weekend. Okay, Mark says Environment Canada will only issue warnings if it is over 49 miles per hour where I live. So just shy of 80 kilometers per hour for your area. Yeah, it's not looking like you'll hit that criteria for this event. Looks like you'll still be a little bit shy, so I'm not expecting any wind warnings for Vancouver Island with this next event right now. $43 again down here in Enumclaw. 39 for Riverbend, 38 for Kangley. And the Europeans doing a pretty good job so far showing these wind gusts here in the foothills. Which is why I was leaning more towards the European forecast and not the NAM, which I think was overdoing it for a lot of these areas. It'll probably take a bit to change my mind on the NAM and the HER for wind forecasting from now on. And we're done on the 0Z, so we can go out to 48 hours on here and see what this one has to say. See, the HER model tonight has the wind gusts staying at mainly east of the Issaquah area. It does have some parts of Enumclaw getting into the 40 plus, but it keeps it just outside of Enumclaw city limits if this one were to verify. but not getting my hopes up that it will verify. But tons of rain with both of them. So this is what the HER is showing for that frontal passage on Thursday right now. Shows Tacoma in the 45 mile per hour range, which could be an overestimation. Definitely think it's overestimating shower coverage here, which it has done in the past. So I don't usually look to the HER, the HRRR to some of you for some of this shower activity. This shows a big thunderstorm down here in southwestern Lewis County at 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Don't quite think that's going to happen. You know, it does all right for the lower end showers like this, but when it comes to the singular, more discrete showers or multi-cell clusters like these, this is where it sometimes has trouble. So not really taking this seriously right now. And the new 0Z NAM is out to 24 hours right now, so some new data coming in off the high-res models, which shows some of this activity starting up down here in the southwest interior up to Tacoma as soon as 2 p.m. tomorrow if this one were to verify. And these are some of the stronger cells that could produce waterspouts off the coast that has this area highlighted with the marginal risk, a 2% tornado risk for parts of these areas. This has some of this activity making up the I-5 corridor near Olympia by 4 p.m. when the sun starts to go down. So with the sun setting earlier, we do have a small chance of possibly seeing some nighttime lightning to the south and west of Tacoma tomorrow afternoon. At least that's what the NAM is showing. And usually the NAM does better than the HER when it comes to shower and thunderstorm coverage, at least with my experience. But certainly showing some small hail makers possible along I-5 here in Thurston County and over parts of the Key Peninsula around 4 p.m. standard tomorrow. So we'll have to be on the lookout for that also. If this does come to fruition, tomorrow could be another live stream day too. Possibly starting as early as 2 p.m. maybe. You know, I'll be watching the radar like a hawk during this time, because nowcasting is critical when it comes to storm events like this. You just got to know where you're at and where you're looking on the radar. We're getting a few new frames here on the NAM, and it shows some of this heavy shower activity over downtown Seattle, extending up towards Snohomish County, down towards the northern tip of Vashon Island, and over parts of Gig Harbor and Tacoma over the Narrows at 5 p.m. tomorrow. Just have to put a huge disclaimer next to if this were to verify. It's what it shows on simulated radar for the NAM 3KM. The new data just coming off the press right now. Has a pretty big storm just outside of Ritzville too. For those of you interested in eastern Washington weather. This would be at 7 p.m. if this were to verify. Whew. Little bit sore. I've been going back to the weight room since a couple days ago. You know, of course, had my birthday on the 1st, so I wasn't expecting anything then. Ooh, it's actually saying I have a stream bit rate higher than the recommended one. Not too often you see that. Usually it's lower than the recommended. Yeah, I went back to the gym for the first time in 2 years, 2 days ago. And my muscles were absolutely killing me yesterday. I was, stiff as a board yesterday. So I took a break day yesterday and then I went back today. And definitely starting to feel it. Hopefully not feeling too much muscle fatigue in the morning so I can go back and get another quick session in before the weather really begins around this area. So I will be on standby for a possible short-term live stream. So do be sure to ring that bell and subscribe if you haven't already, Make sure to turn on your live notifications for when Puget Sound Stormwatch does go live so that there's no surprises in the future. We're in that time of the year where I could break into live stream coverage anytime. But luckily I had this one planned a little bit out. So thank you all who initially showed up for the live stream and are still here at this time too. Looks like we're up to 26 viewers right now. If anyone's new, this is Anthony with Puget Sound Stormwatch. Welcome back to live stream weather coverage. Currently going over the east wind event as well as a possible frontal passage on Thursday. And a chance of some isolated thunderstorms south and west of Olympia tomorrow afternoon as well. So do be on standby in case I go back into live stream coverage for thunderstorms south and west of Olympia and Tacoma tomorrow afternoon. If it does start to overperform, I will definitely break into live stream coverage for sure. Does anyone else have any questions while we're on standby right now? It's currently watching some of these wind gusts really pick up around the area. The Greenwater station is back up to 51 miles per hour. Just going to keep constantly refreshing this map tonight. I'm trying to get my sleep schedule back together a little better, so probably won't see a stream much longer than the next 2 hours or so. Looking to end the stream right around 8 p.m., barring a huge audience. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything you want to address, feel free to do so anytime you feel like it. Really picking up here in Grayland. Thank you for the report. I am actually going to move this box over to the other screen because I keep falling behind with the chat by switching windows. Oh, there we go. And bounce back and forth between Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Blue Sky, and so on. Yeah, let's go check the Grayland site out here. No official National Weather Service stations in the Grayland, like the Grayland city limits, but just outside of here, this one's only at 10 miles per hour right now. So I'm guessing you probably mean the rain's picking up down there, right? Yeah, radar scope shows a little brief break in the rain. All right there, but the next round of rain is coming up here shortly. Not that far away. Ugh, excuse me. Really burnt myself out today. So yeah, the rain is steady rains making it into the Lakewood area right now. So should expect steady rain across the Seattle area by around 8 p.m. tonight. Okay, no wind gusts. All right. So that does verify. the 42 here at Kingley right now, out of the southeast. See, the NAM has some of these passing showers continuing into early Thursday morning. Still have 25 more frames to render on this before it's complete. It's really disappointing. I looked at Shannon O'Donnell's post, the meteorologist on Como. She's talking about the east wind event tonight, and someone just blatantly went after her, saying that the views must be tanking. You know, that was really uncalled for, and I'm really disappointed to see that from said person. There's been a lot of scrutiny in my comment section as well recently, so I've increased the moderation, and I'm going to be more strict about that from this point on. And that is from followers as well, since I have guest commenting disabled permanently. All right, we have a new record 27 in the chat now. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to live coverage here with Puget Sound Stormwatch. Most of you have heard we have a thunderstorm risk in effect for tomorrow for most of western Washington. Also have this marginal risk in effect for most of western Oregon in the extreme southwestern portion of Washington tomorrow. It's mainly parts of Cowlitz and most of Clark counties. 2% tornado risk and 5% wind and hail risks are in effect. This is for tomorrow. Hurricane Jaya simulations. Yeah, that's right. You're one of Matthew's classmates, right? That is correct. All right, well, welcome to the Puget Sound Stormwatch live stream. Good to have you here. Yeah, so very sorry it's not too eventful right now. We've already covered most of what we need to cover. Now I'm just opening it up to live discussion. Anyone who has any questions. It's another one of those comments too. Someone commented on one of Shannon's posts saying, lived here for all of my 60 years and until last year, never heard of this big dark thing. Why are we dumbing down society? The days get shorter due to the tilt of the earth. It's not some big dark thing. Wow, and the fact that there's multiple people defending this person is, yes, truly uncalled for. Really windy up here on Grandview Road. Hello, Keith. Welcome in. A few miles north of Arlington, we get a northeast wind up here before storms, but never in the wind advisory. These are on Facebook. Yeah, this is on Shannon's Facebook. That's where I'm reading it off of right now. Just so right now, I'm going to keep the names confidential. You know, last thing I need is an accidental defamation lawsuit. So yeah, someone commented on Shannon's post yesterday at 4:43 about the foothill wind alert. I said, so used to just be high winds and steady rain, now Cascadia winds and atmospheric rivers. Your ratings must be tanking. And Shannon clapped back at him with a vengeance. Yeah, just a lot of distasteful comments on a lot of weather pages, including mine recently. It's not surprising, but just kind of sad too. You know, gotta say. Love Shannon, yes. Still yet to meet a lot of these weather people in real life. I have met Rich Marriott, and I've met, of course, Matthew. So Matthew lives in my local area, in the Federal Way Milton area. So he occasionally, when I still worked at Safeway, would come in to shop from time to time. I met him more recently, like right up around February or March, right before that storm event in March that never actually really came to fruition. So I met Matthew a total of 3 times. And I met Rich Marriott back in August of 2013. I was invited to the King 5 studio to do a shadowing of Rich's work. Then I returned to that same studio sometime, I believe, October or November of 2015 for a school field trip. Did not meet Rich that time and did not meet any real big name weather people there. I actually don't remember who I met there. I just remember it was one huge audience, and we were on, I believe it was New Day Northwest. It was one of the morning shows, but my class was on there on a live television filming. I do remember my class as well was invited to the Northwest Regional Emmys in 2017, I believe. It was 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2018 right before I graduated, but I was invited to the Northwest Regional Emmys, not related to Puget Sound Stormwatch or anything like that. It was just for a broadcasting class that I was involved in. That was nominated for a few regional Emmys. You know, we didn't win anything, sadly, but it was still cool to see a lot of people from the Northwest there. You know, I knew that like meteorologist Morgan Palmer was there from Cairo 7. But I didn't actually meet him. I just knew that he was there. So it was pretty cool to be in the same room as a lot of these other idols around the Pacific Northwest, including a lot of big weather names too. And I do hope one day I can go back, but maybe as Puget Sound Stormwatch and not as a high schooler. Yeah, I got a lot of really cool real world experiences being in broadcasting in high school. Also part of the reason why I like doing video production so much right now too. All right, where was I? Yeah, I see a number of people got bored with that little anecdote. Completely understandable. I know you guys came here for weather and not for stories. Ooh, gust is 66 here at Crystal Summit. A new record on the day. Nothing surprising because this area gets the wind a lot, and this is see, it says it's at 6,830 feet above sea level too, so no stranger to high wind out here. But still, 66 nonetheless is still pretty impressive anywhere in reality. Both Enumclaw and Canely hitting 41 miles per hour here as of the last 5 minutes. Still, the European model is doing pretty good showing this activity tonight in these areas. I just wish we had more NWS stations here to the east of Chester Morris along I-90. So we could see if those 58 to 60 mile per hour gusts on the NAM were the verify or not. Getting up to 20 here at Renton. So getting a little breezy here from the southeast in Renton. We're at 19. Sunset Way in Issaquah. .35 here in North Bend city limits. But not too much outside of that right now. Still relatively calm at the moment. I'd like to see if we break this 46 mile per hour daily record here at Enumclaw. There are a lot of citizen weather observer program sensors that are mounted improperly that create a lot of noise. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier about how a lot of these sensors are probably not mounted like 30 plus feet off of a rooftop and away from trees. So a lot of these numbers could be skewed. I'm really only going off the higher numbers because you see a lot of areas immediately downstream are nowhere near as strong, like this 16 mile per hour gust here in the Osceola subdivision. Nearby that 41 and this 32 nearby. Not really lining up with the correlation that we're seeing. And 25 up just to the north too. A lot of these are due to user error with mounting that equipment. Right. That is correct. But yeah, the higher up you can have a sensor mounted and the farther away from trees, then the more accurate results you're usually going to get. Of course, my weather station's not shown on here. It is shown on the weather under map though. But since I have less trees to the east, it's normally more accurate for east wind events than it is the normal south or west. So I have a pretty big tree line behind the house that my station's mounted on, just down the street from me. So normally the trees obstruct most of the wind since we have 100 to 150 plus foot evergreens right behind the house. So it's pretty much impossible to get weather station into good position for those south and west wind gusts that we normally get. So it should start raining. If you're anywhere north and east of Tacoma, if it hasn't already started raining, it should start raining here in the next 30 minutes or so. This includes Bremerton. Someone was here earlier from Bremerton asking about this. Rain is in your vicinity right now. Let's go look at the latest forecast discussion from the National Weather Service in Seattle. So the warm front will be lifting into the region late tonight. This will raise the snow levels, mainly to above pass level as far as I can tell. And it says the trailing cold front will stall over western Washington tomorrow before dissipating tomorrow night. That's what's going to bring the slight risk of thunderstorms to the southwest interior tomorrow. Then it says an atmospheric river will move in on Thursday for rain and windy conditions lingering into Friday. That is the overall synoptic outlook for the Seattle area. They even mention that there's a lot going on in the short term, so the rest of the discussion is broken into key points. So they broke it into wind, rain, coastal flooding, high surf, winter weather, and so on. Saying breezy to windy conditions will materialize tonight as a strong area of low pressure enters the offshore waters. The warm front will lift into the region late tonight. A wind advisory is still scheduled to go into effect for the Cascade foothills and actually just went into effect a half hour ago at 6 p.m. So that wind advisory is officially in effect for the foothills of southern Snohomish, all of King, and all of Pierce counties. So from the Granite Falls area all the way down to Eatonville, you're now in a wind advisory until 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then another round of breezy conditions will develop with the next system arriving early Thursday morning. But the winds will be out of the south as we traditionally see ahead of these cold front passages. It says the coast, eastern Strait of Juan de Fuca, northern inland waters. So the usual areas prone to these southerly strong winds will be getting the strongest. It will begin to ease late Thursday night. So wouldn't be surprised to possibly see another wind advisory for some of those areas, including Bellingham and Port Townsend. Getting some strong gusts. Cheryl Rich out of Yakult, Washington. That is down in Clark County, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that specific area you'll have to be on watch for tomorrow, because there is that marginal risk of severe weather in effect, just as a heads up. Right down here for most of Clark County. 2% tornado, 5% wind, 5% damaging hail risk. Looking around 2 to 3 inches of precipitation for the Olympics, 1 to 2 inches in the Cascades, and 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of rain expected for the Puget Sound lowlands. Says will be slightly wetter for lowland locations Thursday night into Friday, and mountain locations still receiving 2 to 3 inches. This is precipitation, so this could be the form of rain, snow, a mix, sleet, so on. All kinds of precipitation at 1,100 feet. Okay, so you're probably a little more exposed than the rest of the area. So that explains why you're getting some breezy conditions down there. So yeah, it says the coastal flood advisory has been upgraded to a coastal flood warning. And moderate to major coastal flooding is expected along the coast, especially in Westport and La Push, where we could get 2 to 3 feet of water above ground level due to the king tides and the incoming high surf on Thursday. So it has breaking waves 20 to 25 feet in the high surf advisory, which is also in effect for the coasts of Clallam, Jefferson, and Grays Harbor counties. It says with the higher astronomical tide still in the forecast, high surf can exacerbate or exaggerate coastal flooding impacts. And they've also highlighted the impacts or the potential impacts of coastal beach erosion in this area as well. It says Thursday should be taken just as seriously as Wednesday with the compounding effect of the high waves. And then when it comes to winter weather, a winter weather advisory is issued for the Cascades of Skagit and Whatcom counties. So the higher elevations of Highway 20 where 4 to 8 inches of snow is possible. This would likely be ahead of the warm front because once the warm front comes through, it's really going to raise those snow levels quite a bit. Possibly above this region shown here. It says the trend indicates calmer weather over the weekend. So calm weather possible before another round of weather comes in next week. It says right now there appears to be no severe wind threats in the late week and weekend time frame, but this will be monitored closely. And so far, models show the same thing. No big wind threat for the area. They did show several chances of wind over the next week, but the models have completely backed off on this in the recent days. So not looking for anything really major coming up for Western Washington over the next week or so. It says the Skokomish River will already be near action stage from the rain Tuesday night through Wednesday. So it looks like the Skokomish River will go above flood stage as early as Thursday afternoon. So could expect a flood warning there sometime Thursday for the Skokomish River near Potlatch in Mason County. Says the Snoqualmie, Skykomish, and Snohomish could get an action stage with the heavier rain in the headwaters. Not quite flood stage, but action stage, which is a step below minor flood stage. So here's a summation of alerts for the area right now. Winter weather advisory, 4 p.m. tomorrow to 10 a.m. Friday for the Cascades of Whatcom and Skagit counties. The wind advisory for the foothills from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. tomorrow. For the foothills of Snohomish, King, and Pierce counties. And that flood watch in effect for Mason County Thursday afternoon through Saturday morning. And then the coastal flood warning just recently upgraded from 7 a.m. tomorrow to 10 p.m. Thursday. This is for the coast from Clallam County all the way down to Grays Harbor County. And then, of course, that coinciding high surf advisory also in effect from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Thursday for the same area of the coast. Then the rest of these are marine alerts around the area. A few gale warnings in effect off the coast. Gale warnings in effect along the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And small craft advisories for the inland northwest waters. Looks like steady rains moving into the Tacoma area at this time. Some more steady rain moving through the Willamette River Valley into parts of southwest Washington. So a little break here along the coast, but more rain is on the way. Looks like the NAM3CAM model is fully rendered now. So now we can get an idea all the way out into early Friday morning. See, this shows the moderate, steady rain coming into the area tonight. And then breaking up around tomorrow afternoon. And then we watch the chance of isolated thunderstorms moving into the area. Some of these could produce small hail and lightning. A few of these storms in particular move into that little marginal risk area that have a marginal tornado chance. Extremely slim chance, but it is there for what I consider the tornado alley of Western Washington. It has this isolated shower and possible storm activity continuing into the early morning hours Thursday, then diminishing a little bit Thursday before the next front comes in and brings a pretty strong frontal passage, which could kick up the winds a bit out of the south ahead of the front. Then there's some slight post-frontal showers, but not looking at anything too serious as we go into the early morning hours Friday. Let me see, just out of curiosity, what the NAM has to show for wind gusts at this time. Showing it kicking up quite a bit for some areas, but the NAM overdid a lot of these totals the last couple of wind events that we had, including the easterly wind events. I'm not quite convinced that this is showing the big picture here. I still believe what the European is showing, but the NAM shows wind gusts in the 40 plus mile per hour range Thursday afternoon ahead of this front, and the frontal boundary can be seen clear as day here. It would be coming out of the south and then out of the west behind the front. So southerly winds shifting to westerly as the front moves over Thursday afternoon. So that's the 0Z NAM. We'll hopefully be getting the 0Z Euro here very soon, in the next hour and a half, I'd hope. But yeah, the European here does show a spot getting close to 60 miles per hour. This would be a little bit northeast of Enumclaw. So possibly affecting areas of Enumclaw and Black Diamond, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Just as a heads up. You check back on winds in this area. Not doing too much at the moment. We're still getting up into the mid to upper 30 range for wind gusts, but not looking too impressive right now. Definitely in a little lull for the easterly winds. The European shows mainly 30 to 40, some areas higher like the northern inland waters. Bellingham possibly getting up to 45 miles per hour with this frontal passage on Thursday afternoon. And even showing some areas 60 plus up here in the Nooksack River Valley as you go into the higher elevations. And then starting to die down after that, and then we're not seeing anything too significant the rest of the week into the weekend. Although maybe some more east winds possible later Saturday night and early Sunday morning. Outside of that, it looks like Thursday afternoon is going to be our biggest threat of wind for the area. Even then, not looking super strong, but Thursday afternoon would be the best bet. Not counting east winds tonight and early tomorrow morning. Oh, well, looks like most of the viewers got tired of hearing me talk there for a while. We just lost a pretty good chunk of people, but barring any last minute comments, questions, or concerns, we're probably going to wind things down here around 7 p.m. So more of a shorter style stream compared to the ones I've done in the past. Like, not expecting anywhere near that 8.5 hour stream anytime soon, unless we have another big wind event like that Saturday, about a week and a half ago. Our other Keith is here, Keith Capolero. And then Hurricane Jaya Simulation, still here just listening. Just got on here. Hello, Keith. How are things up north in Bellingham? You're doing pretty good up there so far, hopefully? Haven't seen much up there in terms of wind tonight. It's mainly been to the foothills of King County right now. But yeah, see, Bellingham hasn't gotten much, since these east winds are really only going to extend as far north as Monroe, if that area even gets it tonight. Not seeing too much down here, downstream of the Skykomish. Most of the action is downstream of the Snoqualmie and the White River down here. And a little bit from the Green River as well. He says, so far quiet. What did I miss? I was just talking about the east winds for the area, as well as the incoming frontal system on Thursday that could kick up some strong winds across the area. This is what the European has to show so far. Some areas possibly up to 45 miles per hour for your area, Keith, up there. This would be the average between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on Thursday. Expecting southerly winds ahead of this front, switching to westerly behind it. But that's really the only wind maker that we're looking at over the next 6 days or so. At least in current model imagery. Just waiting for the 0Z, the 4 p.m. run of the European to drop so we can get a comparison for that. But if it doesn't drop by around 7 p.m., then I'm just going to have to wait till later on. Post it to Facebook and all my other sources like Patreon. Also reminds me, if you guys want to check out my Patreon here as well, this is patreon.com/CW/Puget Sound Stormwatch. Thank you to the new couple of pledges that we got, the new Patreons. patrons, excuse me, over the last few days or so. It's also a 7-day free trial for anyone that wants to do the intro forecaster tier that I have set up. It then goes to $1.99 per month after the first 7 days. But here's an example of a lot of the posts that I make. These are from October. It's a cross post over from Facebook if you don't have Facebook. Actually says just got home. So it looks like your hair appointment was a success. Is that correct? Wind is picking up down in the Eatonville area. But yeah, these are some examples of some of the posts that I make here on Patreon, cross-posted from Facebook. For example, this most recent post about the easterly gap winds possibly getting over 50 miles per hour in some areas. This was one of my more recent posts about 21 hours ago or so about the easterly gap winds. And I also generally include a TLDR for the non-readers who just want to get a brief summation of this. This was requested on Facebook, but I also cross-posted it to Patreon with the same little TLDR. So if you don't have Facebook and want to read the blog, please consider looking at Patreon. A lot of these posts are free, but if you want all of the unlocked posts, please consider trying out the 7-day free trial for the Intro Forecaster Patreon tier for Puget Sound Stormwatch on Patreon. Yeah, so it looks like my trick worked for you. Although I ran out of requests for the Etsy Witch to hold off for some people. Looks like it worked out in your favor either way. So good news there. Let's see what the GDPS is showing too, because sometimes this can sniff out some of those storm events off the coast. Not all the time, but sometimes. And we crashed. No surprise there. Trying to get it to the regional level, and sometimes it just crashes ahead of time. She said, I'll give you the credit. Good call. Not seeing anything of interest right now on the Canadian. Still showing the same time frame as the rest. Around 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. showing that frontal passage around the area. And some strong winds possible off the coast over Long Beach. But not seeing anything too major. So pretty good short to mid-range model agreement in that aspect. This is the AI forecast system. So it's showing a few interesting things out in the extended, but I'm guessing it has since pulled back on that. It's have a little weak filling in low sometime around the 13th, late at night on the 12th, early in the morning on the 13th, but that wouldn't pose any major wind threat around here. May have to watch farther out in the extended, this little low off the coast here, but this is way out in the forecast. This is 2 weeks ahead, so very likely to change and not go as this forecast shows. But just something to keep an eye on over the next 2 weeks. And then again, that was the 12Z, so let me actually make it make sense. Switch to the 18Z, the most recent run. See if there's any differences in that forecast since then. No, it actually appears to have pulled back both of those possible solutions. So, yeah, you see it throws this low pressure system down to the south. We don't see that direction with storms too often. It's mainly west to east or northwest to southwest. Sometimes southwest to northeast as well, but we don't usually see those almost due south movers. You know, just something of interest there. Let's look at some of the ensembles while we still have the group together. These are going to show average 6-hour wind gusts. So the average of 50 different ensemble members with slightly different parameters. Even the averages are showing gusts 50 to 55 miles per hour between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. tonight for some of these foothill locations. So pretty good confidence in that forecast by the looks of it. But it doesn't have these stretching very far out west. Possibly out to Issaquah and some Sammamish, but not much farther west than that. Mainly has Seattle and Tacoma getting a breeze, but not looking at anything too serious. Looks like your typical run-of-the-mill, maybe a little bit more than run-of-the-mill, but your run-of-the-mill east wind event for this time of the year. It's also picking up on some east winds, just like the European deterministic as well, for the Saturday to Sunday time frame. But this ensemble forecast agrees with the deterministic and says no real big wind threat outside of possibly Thursday, which this tones down Thursday a little bit too for the area, but pretty good agreement between the ensemble and the deterministic on this one. These ones here would be considered gap winds, yes. Yeah, if you see anything just confined to this local area or anything down in the gorge here, like this, these are typically easterly gap winds. And just to make sure, you can switch it to 10 meter above ground level winds too, which have the barbs, which show you direction and intensity. And it does show east or southeast here as well. It bounces around between the east and the south quite a bit with that frontal passage. But after that front comes through on Thursday, it switches right back to out of the east for a little bit. So we don't have any real disturbance coming up on our toes after this weekend, as of right now. But yeah, the winds out in this area, these are the gap winds, 100%. Still says 66 down here at Crystal Summit. That is almost 7,000 feet above sea level though, so expected to get high winds in a situation like this. Otherwise, things have settled down for the moment here in the foothills, but could get going again here real soon. As a heads up, the wind advisory just started at 6 p.m. So a lot of these are probably not associated with those strongest winds expected to come down these mountain gaps. And that wind advisory remains in effect until 4 a.m. also. So still plenty of time, over 9 hours, for those wind gusts to really kick up from Snohomish County, Granite Falls area, all the way down through Monroe, Sultan, Gold Bar, Duval, Carnation, Snoqualmie, North Bend, Issaquah, Maple Valley, Black Diamond, Enumclaw, Buckley, Eatonville, Elby, Ashford, etc. Really, anywhere east of I-405 and South Hill could get some of these wind gusts tonight. Just as a heads up, anywhere in this general area shown here. Ooh, boy. Ooh, sorry about that. That was a nice little thump on the desk. Yeah, mainly eastern Snohomish and King County. This also includes eastern Pierce County as well. But there's no real huge mountain gaps downstream of east Pierce County. You know, mainly just the winds coming around Mount Rainier for the most part. So occasionally we can get this wind shadow downstream of Mount Rainier depending on the wind direction. We do sometimes get some wind gusts down the Nisqually though, and these models have been picking up on that as well. So you could get some wind gusts down here south of the Nisqually River Valley. Models usually show this area between Lewis and Thurston County getting the strongest winds when we get easterly wind events, including some areas of Yelm, Rainier, Tenino, and other surrounding areas, but mainly rural areas of the counties, which don't have much population at all. Back up the 40 miles per hour here at Kingley. Yeah, the main threat, what I'm seeing right now on models, is most of eastern Pierce County, mainly central and southern Pierce County in the foothills. So right around this area would be the greatest risk tonight. All right, over 300 views. Thank you guys. We just hit 25 likes on the stream. Thank you all so much for liking. If you guys want notifications on live streams in the future, be sure to ring that bell. Turn on those live stream notifications. Because a lot of the times I do provide leeway, at least on Facebook, when I go on the live streams. But sometimes I have to break in the live coverage if we have a critical weather event. For example, if it be super strong winds all of a sudden or thunderstorms in the area, I will break in the live coverage at very short notice. So just make sure to have those notifications turned on just in case in the near future. It is that time of the year. Ooh, and we just hit 750 members on the Rapid Fire Updates channel on Facebook as well. I expect when things really get rapidly firing, like if I have to activate that channel for thunderstorms tomorrow, probably going to be a lot of people backing out of that, as I've seen before. Because like when we got that thunderstorm a couple weeks ago down in PL that moved north up through Oakville and parts of Malone, Porter up through Elma. I was notifying people rapidly there, but a lot of people up north in, say, Bellingham or Whidbey Island, that doesn't concern them, right? So they're going to back out of that because it doesn't affect them. That's the real big drawback of the Rapid Fire Update channel, is it covers all of Western Washington for the most part. Keith says, looks like Bellingham will be getting rain around 8:30 p.m. Yeah, actually, Bellingham's on the leading edge of this rain as it is already. Could see it sooner by around 7:30. Starting out light, but then getting a little bit heavier as this complex of rain starts to move to the north. But steady rain over the Tacoma area right now. I can't see outside my window at the moment, but it should be raining at the moment. And a lot of rain over the Vancouver-Portland area moving north as well. So maybe a little bit of drying behind this initial band of rain, but then the steady rain behind that comes in and fills our area up overnight. Destiny Raymond says, when will it get crazy tonight in Auburn? Not seeing anything crazy, and not a lot of it reaching Auburn either. Could get breezy in Auburn, but we're not seeing anything too strong at the moment. So that area, technically, you're just on the outskirts of that wind advisory. If you're up on East Hill, you are technically included in that wind advisory, but it's in effect between 6 p.m. tonight and 4 a.m. tomorrow. So any time in that time period, it could get breezy, but we're not expecting anything too crazy for Auburn. Probably wind gusts at most 30 miles per hour. All right, Julie, welcome back. Just popped in to see what's up. Raining a lot right now here too. Thank you. Welcome back. Just going over the threat of east winds tonight for a lot of the foothill locations. The advisory is now in effect as of 6 p.m. for the south central Snohomish foothills, as well as all of the King and Pierce County foothills. These are the far eastern portions of the county going up into the passes. So mainly this general area here. So you were already getting 40 plus in some of these areas too. But not much further downstream the farther west you go. Enumclaw, Auburn area. Okay, that's a little different. Yeah, so some of these areas, like this station down here, is already maxed out at 46 down here in Enumclaw. So if you're somewhere in the Muckleshoot Reservation near the White River Amphitheater, it could get up towards 40 miles per hour sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. But it doesn't look like much more than that at the moment. So I'm predicting around 30 to 40 miles per hour for your general vicinity. And Riley says, what will the max wind gusts be in Port Orchard, Washington? You're definitely going to be too far west to get these easterly winds. So it'll probably be a little breezy, but not expecting you to feel any impacts up there. We'll probably no more than 10 to 15 miles per hour for Port Orchard and Bremerton. You know, the threat is mainly east of the 405-167 corridor. So really, if you're anywhere east of I-405 to 167 to 161 here, that is going to be your best chance of getting the wind gusts tonight. Teresa Thurston says lots of rain and windy at Lake Tapps. Thank you for the report. Lake Tapps is technically included in that wind advisory tonight. So they're calling for just a generalized prediction of sustained winds 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts possibly up to 45 miles per hour. It's really going to be dependent on how close you are to those mountain gaps, though. Like, the closer you are to the gaps, the stronger you're going to be. But the farther west you are, the more it's going to diminish and wane over time. So, luckily, no major impacts expected with this event. Just looking like more of a run-of-the-mill style event. Nothing like the bomb cyclone last year or the Veterans Day event in 2014, which was also quite damaging, even as far west as the Milton area down here. I remember being out of power for close to 36 hours with that, and all schools ran on late start the next day. Because a lot of the schools up on the hill were without power. You know, it's just too bad. I was looking on PayPal trying to see if my coffee donations were coming through yet. I received so many notifications, like so many coffee donations in a short amount of time on my birthday 3 days ago, that they actually put a hold on my PayPal account until they can verify that it's actually legit. So all of the incoming coffee donations are actually paused, probably until the end of the month or even the beginning of next month. That is according to what PayPal said to me. Olga says, I'm in Maple Valley, Hobart by 18, fairly quiet right now. Few small gusts earlier. Windy is showing some highish gusts from the Euro and NAM models, so we're sitting tight. I'm leaning more towards the Euro, not the NAM in this case. The NAM has fumbled quite a bit the last couple of wind events. It did better during the wind event 2 Saturdays ago. Teresa Thurston says, yes, nice gust. Okay, so definitely sounding like it's picking up over in Lake Tapps a little bit. Yeah, it definitely verifies because we just got a 45 mile per hour gust down here in Enumclaw. So you probably felt that pretty good if you're downstream anywhere west or northwest of Enumclaw. You know, that's probably the gust that you felt just right there, 45. So yeah, if you're looking at windy on the Windy app, or East 167. Okay, yeah, so you're probably in the general area where they're expecting the wind gusts sometime tonight, because the wind advisory, the zone that they have is east of 167 up on the hills there. So like Lakeland Hills, Lake Tapps, Bonnie Lake, Prairie Ridge, Tahale area, all of that. That is technically part of the wind advisory. So if you're looking on the Windy app, Olga, definitely go more towards what the Euro is showing than the NAM. It's similar, but the Euro's been doing a pretty good job with the wind events more so recently than the NAM. I'm really kind of hesitant to believe what the NAM's showing. And the HER has it more more isolated towards the mountain gaps and not really a much broader area downstream. So it'll be really a comparison between what the HER and the Euro have to show. Looks like it may have someone come over in the next half hour, so maybe cutting the stream by 7:30, just as a heads up. In case anyone has any more questions to ask, looking to end the stream sometime around 7:30. We're up to 41 now in Kangley. We got a pretty nice gust in the last 5 minutes that went downstream of the mountain gaps. Reported all the way out towards the Lake Tapps area too. So you have 45 here in Enumclaw, 41 Kangley. Not doing too much here downstream of the Snoqualmie right now. Even gusting up to around 23, max 29 here on the edge of Federal Way near Twin Lakes. So some of this is making it over towards the Puget Sound a little bit, just nowhere near as strong as over here in the foothills. We're up to 35 now in Buckley too, near Rainier School. HER is showing gusts in the 30s for us. Yeah, I'd say the wind gusts for your area are going to be somewhere between what the HER and the Euro are showing. Probably like right in the middle of what they're showing. Getting up to near 400 views. Keith says there's a winter weather advisory for the Cascades of Whatcom and Skagit counties, 4 to 8 inches of snow. Yeah, if you were here around a half hour to an hour earlier, I would have already gone over that. But yeah, that is true. That a winter weather advisory is in effect for the Cascade locations. There's been a little bit of twisting of the words from some of the news agencies recently. Like one of them said that there was a winter weather advisory for, I believe it was parts of Snohomish and King counties recently. It was a few days to a week ago, but an extremely clickbait headline, which really made me cringe. Just glad to see they're not doing that again for that area. That definitely left a sour taste in my mouth for sure. So just waiting for another update from that station. Let me see if the Euro started rendering yet. It is not. So yeah, guys, that about covers it for most of the stream. So I'm going to open up this time for any other comments or questions. The follower count on Facebook seized quite a bit during this stream. We're at 30,966. So I have a good feeling if we get one more push on Facebook, we can reach 31K. Still haven't done the 30K Facebook live stream either. It's been really busy with outside of weather stuff. So I haven't really gotten much time to get that 30K live stream set up. Cannot wait for the king tides this week. It's mainly going to be along the Washington coast, though. We're not seeing any significant impacts for the inland waters. Man on man, Enumclaw is really picking up now. He's just waiting for that station to update, but at least in the last 5 minutes or so, yeah, definitely picked up here on the southeast side of Enumclaw near the golf course. You know, downstream of these mountain gaps coming through here. So yeah, hang on tight, William G, down there for sure. That's going to be one of the areas of highest interest tonight. It's down in Enumclaw. All right, everyone. Well, since I do expect a guest to come by very soon to pick something up, I'm definitely going to consider winding down the stream for the night. Hopefully I got the point across and I covered everything that needed to be covered for the area. You know, talking about the king tides, coastal flooding, high surf, incoming rain, incoming wind. You know, do be on the heads up for a potential frontal system that could kick up winds quite a bit Thursday afternoon. Also the chance of some thunderstorms, mainly south and west of Tacoma tomorrow afternoon too, behind a cold front that comes through. Keith says, have a great night. Talk to you later. Thank you again, Keith, for tuning in. Yeah, that should just about do it. Down the 43 here at this station now. So still gusting pretty good, but not seeing anything too major coming down the mountain gaps right now. But yeah, I've got to get into a better habit of adjusting for a more favorable sleep schedule. Of course, if we have a late night storm, then that's out the window. But for something fairly modest like this, that's common, it's not something I'm going to stay in live stream coverage for too long, if that makes sense. How late are you planning to keep the live tonight? Well, I was just planning on wrapping it up here in the next 15 minutes or so. May have somebody stopping by to pick something up, and that would be a good time to start to wind things down. The audience is winding down too. I'm not sure if you guys noticed. We had a pretty good drop in audience there just a second ago. Guessing a lot of people are probably tired of hearing me yap, which is completely understandable. I've already covered everything I really needed to cover for tonight. So William G says thanks. Yeah, definitely down there in the Enumclaw area, batten down the hatches. Still haven't seen anything exceed that 46 mile per hour gust that we got a couple hours ago, but gotten close. We did hit 45 there about 10 minutes ago and 43 again in the last 5 minutes. So expect to see more of those tonight for sure. Olga says, thanks for the stream. Thank you for tuning in to the stream, even if it was a little bit boring compared to other previous ones. If you want to go back and view the stream as well, I go over most of the items in the first 10 to 15 minutes, so you shouldn't have to skip around too much. Thank you for all the valuable information tonight as per usual. Enjoy your live sessions. If you haven't already, go ahead and ring that bell next to Puget Sound Stormwatch to be notified of live streams like this in the future. With the activity picking up this fall and winter, expect more of these live streams on shorter notice. You know, we may also go live tomorrow afternoon too if the thunderstorm activity down south is more potent than what is shown on models. There is also that marginal risk for parts of Cowlitz, Clark, and also Skamania counties as well in western Washington. But is mostly Oregon west of the Willamette towards the coast with that 2% tornado, 5% wind, and 5% hail risk. So marginal chance of severe weather down there tomorrow afternoon. If you know anyone that may be along I-5 south of Cowlitz County, mainly Longview south towards the border, please tell them to keep an eye on the weather tomorrow down there. Hopefully, the National Weather Service in Portland should have some updates in real time for you guys. Because normally, I don't normally cover that area as my primary area of interest. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in again. Looks like most of you guys are starting to leave. Just in time. Yeah, we're in a brief lull in the wind gusts at the moment. But expect these to pick up a little bit tonight, too. So, appreciate all of you guys tuning in, but I'm going to head out. Get ready to wind down. Somebody's probably coming over anyways, so good time to start to wrap things up. Possibly a live stream tomorrow, but don't get your hopes up for certain. Just really depends on, 69 down there. It's 68. I don't quite, okay, that's way up on the mountain, that's why. Yeah, 68 near Mount St. Helens is to be expected with something like this. Same with the 69 here at Crystal Summit. That's almost 7,000 feet above sea level, so no surprises there. William G says, signing off. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in, William G. I will also be signing off for the night. So, another step in the right direction for the Puget Sound Stormwatch YouTube channel. Appreciate you guys subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing. Teresa Thurston says, thanks. I think that will do it for tonight. This is Anthony with Puget Sound Stormwatch. Remember, always stay weather aware at all times. Have a great night, everyone, and see you guys for the next one.